are live. So, hello, greetings. Welcome to our next demo session, the 26th one. And I would like to start by telling you the story about the 226 release that, yes, finally it was released to public, so people can use it. We had some problems here, and I believe we covered it during our previous ones demo. So please take a look if you're curious. There is a video recording attached to the page of the demo. Then the next topic is PMM 227. When would it happen? As we mentioned on the last demo, that we're actually changing the approaches to releases we have. So we rather would release not on some dates, but rather with some scope selected. And for 227, we already selected some initial scope we would like to have there. I also attached the link to the scope of this release. The issues that we see will be included there, and the approximate, again, it's approximate. Bless you. And the approximate date for the 227, the public release, I believe end of March, beginning of April. We will come back to you with more certain dates as long as we resolving the issues in that release. Right? Do you have any questions about the releases for PMM? Okay, I can see it as not. And as we promised on the last retro, we would start with the architecture and foundation team. So I believe, Alex, let's start from your report, your demo.
Thank you, Teres. Yeah, no, I'm here. Thank you. So let me start with one of the things that, well, I remember last time we met, Max was running out of time and he was talking about the use of Percona SSO with several domain names. So I'm gonna switch over to my Figma drawing and show you two things, what it was and what it's going to become. So let's wait this.
Meanwhile, while it's loading, Alex, can you please explain again maybe the problem we're solving? And then,
yeah, exactly. That's what I want to talk about. So the problem was this: when a customer wants to connect their PMM server to the portal, they may choose also to log into their PMM server using SSO. And actually, this is the time where we thought about several domain names when it comes to their SSO. So you know that we do have a screen on the advanced settings, and I can try to locate it real quick. So advanced settings, yeah, over here, I guess. So you may be familiar with this screen. So this is the public address that you may want to indicate, the customer may want to indicate in order if they want to make their PMM server accessible from outside. However, when it comes to connecting PMM server to the portal, we got some questions from, I don't remember whom exactly, but the problem statement was this: what if I'm connecting to a different domain name from a different domain name via SSO? So actually, this screen that you will find right now released is going to get deprecated, and we are going to propose a different one. It's a little bit more data over here, but you shouldn't be, it shouldn't scare anyone, because, for example, if you go top down, the PMM server ID is pre-filled. So the usual server name, which we had before. One thing that will replace what used to be email address, and the password is the access token. And actually, I think we have to work on the documentation to explain how to get where the user can get their access token. And actually, two things. They will click on this button. It will take them over to the portal where there will be like a convenience button that will copy the access token to the dashboard, so that they get back to this page, they can paste it to this field, right? And there will be a section in the docs dedicated to, giving more details around this particular flow. Not insanely complicated. Just go to your profile. There will be a button. You click there and paste here. That's it. And we thought it would be useful to remind the domain name that you saw on the previous screen over here, just to indicate that this is your PMM server domain name that links to the field you saw before in the advanced settings. And you can optionally provide additional PMM server domain names, one per line down below, right, in this text area field. And then once you hit connect, those that you have provided in this field, they will allow you to leverage your SSO for those domain names, right? So once you click connect, I have a second screen. You hit connect and you transition to this one. So this is what the users will see once they connect their server. So on this screen, the usual server ID, and actually we're not sure. Well, we just thought, it's useful to know what my server ID is, because they can be multiple, right? An org can have multiple servers. So maybe for the reasons of debugging or something like this, could be useful. The server name, which can update, by the way, and the server domain name. So this update button is intentionally provided here in case you want to change your server name or one of all of the domain names, right? So that's what the update button is there for. And then you can also disconnect from here. So disconnecting a PMM server from the portal can take place in two can happen in two places. Here on this side of the PMM server, and I think we will have a similar functionality on the portal when you list all of your PMM servers, and you will be able to disconnect just one or two or more. So that was it. Any questions? And actually, this is what Max was talking about last time, and it's just the visuals. I'm following up with the visuals, right? And then, if you don't have any questions at all related to that one, I want to talk about the high availability PMMHA, which is a proof of concept. And actually, it's a very early prototype. I want you to think about what we're going to demo, and I'm partnered with Nikita this time. So I'll talk about the concept, the problem statement, and go through the options. And Nikita will take it over to show you how it works on his machine, I guess, right? So let's start with the paper. So we landed this paper on Confluence, and hold on for a sec. So I wouldn't. So actually, I know this session is being recorded and it's going to be published on the internet, and we have some customer PI here. So this is why I split the screen sort of to 1, and then there's a customer info, and then there's the rest. So I was just forced to split it to 2. Sorry about that. But anyway, you can go to this URL, PMM/high availability PMM, and you can take a look internally. It's you're going to see everything. So when it comes to the problem, I think this is not new. I mean, when I joined 2 years ago, it was already, people were already talking about this. And actually, this is the first time we tried to, put everything on paper like this, top down, starting with the problem statement, how we approach this and stuff like that. So when it comes to the problem statement, like people, well, companies, and including the customers, you will see in 1.2, you will see a bunch of customers who want this solved, right? They see one major issue, which is, okay, I have my PMM server. There's just only one instance of this PMM server. And let's imagine I have a bunch of monitored database instances. So kind of a lot of clients connected to that are talking and sending data to my PMM server. What if my server goes down for an X amount of time? Will I use data? Well, yes. Yes, unfortunately, there will be gaps. Because the way PMM is architected today, well, we lose some data when PMM server is down. And actually, the solution, the solution is not that simple, and it's not only on the PMM server side that we need to solve problems. We also need to solve some problems on the client side, but this is out of scope. Right now, we're focusing on what did we do, how did we approach it from the server side, right? So we'll break it down, and this paper talks solely and focuses solely around the solution on the server side. So the problem statement is, let's make sure the customers do not lose data, as you can read from this, right? So when the server is down, I can, how can I make sure that it will still survive? And one of the challenges actually is, how do I make sure that the databases are up and running? What if they, high availability, starts with high availability of data. So this is one of just one piece of, only one aspect of the big high availability concept that we try to approach. So let me close this one and continue on the other one. And so we identified, the goals have zero visible user effect and all this jazz. You will read it through, but excuse me. But we thought, okay, let's break it down to milestones. Again, I'm not gonna. So obviously, the first milestone is to deliver some proof of concept and see whether or not, and let someone test it and give us feedback. We will listen and we will learn from their experience what works, what doesn't, and why, and maybe iterate on that. And yes, and when it comes to the platform priority, it's important that I mention a few things. Of course, it very much depends on which environment we're talking about, because PMMHA, it can be Kubernetes, it can be bare metal, it can be AMI, it can be OVF, so it can be cloud or bare metal, anything. So we took everything out of scope other than this is just bare metal or VM. Right, there is no Kubernetes in the solution, and it's a parallel branch of the same big epic, if you will, which is PMMHA, and we do have people working on this, including us, architecture. And we said then, okay, so what's the prerequisites? How do we make sure we can even start, to start thinking about the POC? And we said, okay, we need to migrate the Grafana. We need to migrate from keeping Grafana state, which is SQLite right now, to Postgres. We need to upgrade the Postgres version because it's 2022 and PG is version 14 and not 11 as it is right now. So we want to make sure we migrate first. But still, those tickets, they're not closed, and we were quite brave to do this POC even without those. But actually, again, this is just to prove to ourselves that things are possible. And second, we wanted to see how much work needs to be done prior to making that happen. And there are a couple of less critical things, but this is already done. And this is also, we migrated the import dashboards to the native Grafana provisioning mechanism, as you may know. And again, the data sources and everything it's now provisioned via Grafana's native mechanisms. And this critical ticket, the famous PMM 7000, which is when there is no connection between the server and the client, the PMM agent would shut down all of the exporters, which is actually what's leading to the loss of data. So imagine like PMM server is down, the clients, all of the clients connected, they freak out and they shut down the exporters. So Maxim Kondratenko is working on a solution at this particular, right now to figure out how to prevent that from happening. So as you can see, this is like, a bunch of different things that we need to do prior to even pretending this can be a solution. Like there are certain architectural limitations, and one of the limitation is, you will read it from here, like we think that PMM NHD and Quan, right now they're architected in a way that they cannot be multiple instances of those at the same time talking to the database, because just there is no locking. So that will need to be done as well for a full-fledged, multiple instances PMM. But again, this is not multiple instances. The solution we're approaching here, we were envisaging here, is just still one instance. So we said, okay, how do we go about that? Okay, so let's, so we jotted down 3 options, and we said, okay, we want to focus on those 3 options. And the first option was, we said, well, let's see how would it work if it's a cloud-based or a bare metal-based PMM, and let's see how would it work if we spin up 2 PMM servers. So imagine you have 1 PMM server and the second PMM server, and just because of the limitation I just briefly touched on, you cannot have them both up at the same time, because they would destroy some of the data. Right? So it's either this one, and let's imagine this is this one active and this one is in standby. So the idea was, when this one goes down, some mechanism, it just acknowledges that this one is down, and this some mechanism would be obviously part of the proxy or load balancer. It would react on the first server, on the active server being down, and bring this one up, and make sure this one never goes back up while this one is working. And we didn't like this solution from the get-go. Why we didn't? Because there you go. Like, we never had the proxy load balancer. Now you got it, right? So when we say the PMM, when we do have 1 PMM server, it's a single point of failure. Now suddenly the proxy becomes the single point of failure. Which doesn't solve it. And this is why, we saw many downsides to landing this solution, because you have to manage the elastic IP address, and then you have to somehow to have a logic that, like, not only, like, it's not the real load balancer, it's just some engine that will orchestrate and make sure like only 1 PMM server at all times is up and running. So this was not good, right? And I said, okay, let's see what could be the equivalent. And the equivalent would be, so while this solution, it says the persistence layer is still, /SRE, which is what we have right now. This one was a slight modification of the option you saw above, which is, okay, let's see how it would work on a persistence layer taken out of, well, let's imagine all of the databases are like extracted from PMM and they're standalone. So you shut down PMM and the databases are still up and running. So this was again, a modification of the first one. But again, same problems, so now it's even more complicated. Not only you have to mess with proxy LB, not only you have to make sure there's like the elastic IP and stuff like that, but you have to still implement this logic. But the benefit and the improvement over the previous one was that you can have like more than one server. And if we can imagine that those databases, they are not single member, they can be clusters, right? So there's clearly, you know, an improvement in this version over the previous one, but the proxy is still there. And then we went ahead and said, okay, you know, let's get rid of the proxy. Let's imagine, you know, let's make it very simple. Just take the database layer away and see what happens. So we say, okay, there's a tiny portion of data that will still live in the s/sre, which is the config files and the provisioned dashboards. So small stuff, really, really insignificant in terms of data volume, right? And we are just making sure the database layer is taken outside of PMM. And again, I spoke with Roma earlier today, and actually we don't like this. Well, not that we don't like it. I think this is worth considering and even worth talking about this, because this is probably where we are, like, the strategy we want to approach going forward with PMMHA. But the criticism from Roma was like, you know what, the databases are not delivered together like they're today. They're bundled, and we control the versions. For example, if we want to upgrade Postgres or ClickHouse or VMDB or whatever, we just ship it together with PMM 2.26, 27, etc. Right? So we don't offload this and say the customer, now you're responsible for maintaining the versions of the database. So this criticism is definitely that makes sense to me. That's, you know, but that's the price you have to pay for HA sometimes. So if we think about, I mean, it's that digression, of course, and forgive me this, but if we think about an orchestration engine, you know, we kind of understand that this will happen automatically, if you will, over there. But again, not the topic, and there we go. So we said, okay, you know what, if you want to try, this is how you do. So you click on this, you will see a bunch of, you will see just one file, Docker Compose. If you want to try, you can run it. And if something doesn't work, you can contact, well, the best contact is Nikita, of course, because he's the one who will demo right now. And I think I'm ready to answer your questions and ask Nikita in parallel if he's ready. Nikita, say something.
Okay, I very few questions.
Yeah, I was just pinging you. You know, just loud. All right, cool. So yeah, any questions? Whatever they may be.
Alex, let's attach this the link to this page, you know, to the demo. And then people maybe can take a look at this, and then they can have questions.
Nikita will demo, and I will attach. I promise. All right, so I will stop sharing. Nikita, take it over.
Okay. Hi everyone. My laptop slowed down a little because of three databases, PMM server and three databases in PMM server, and I hope this doesn't affect the video sharing. But if it will affect, please say about it. Okay, I'll show a small demo and then tell you about our plans according to HA and so on. How it looks from user perspective. For example, with Docker, we can use Docker Compose. We have three databases here. I use single database here, but we also can use cluster. We can use cluster for vector metrics, for Postgres, and so on. But I just can run it on my laptop at the same time. Yeah, we have three database, ClickHouse, usual image from ClickHouse team. Victoria metrics and Postgres. Postgres we use for Grafana and for PMM managed. Here is our PMM server with custom settings for external databases, external ClickHouse, external Postgres, and external Victoria metrics. We have authorization only in Postgres now, but I think we will add authorization for our database, but it will be a separate task. Okay, let's see. As you can see, all database stopped in container. Postgres stopped, Victoria metrics has stopped, and ClickHouse is stopped. Here, PMM server, we can reload page. We can see metrics here. Let's see data sources. It's external ClickHouse, external Victoria metrics. I use IP address here. I'm not sure why, but you can use hostname here as for ClickHouse. And external Postgres. We can check metrics. Okay. Generally, it all works, and we already almost ready deliver ClickHouse parts to the next series 27, I think. And I think it's good time to speak about our plans according to HA. We plan to deliver one database to ClickHouse in 27, Postgres in 28, Victoria metrics and 90. But maybe we will move one release ahead. And also we have a couple of things what we need to discuss and finish. For example, UI. Do we need to have settings for external databases in UI, or environment variable will be enough, and so on. We want to get as much feedback as possible on this stage, and if you have any ideas or proposals, you can refit our design documents. Sasha, show it, and if we can,
I already.
Sasha added a link to this document, and you can refer your feedback. Okay, it's all about the chain.
So you have this endpoint for scrape config. Is this already implemented in PMM?
Yes.
Okay, cool. In your changes, or it was there before?
In my changes on it.
Cool, cool, nice, thanks.
Max?
Yeah. No, not question, but the point that we should think over. We didn't deal with this task earlier because our databases were bundled together with the server, but now when we split them, we need to ensure that communication channel between server and databases is secure.
But like is secure, what do you mean? Do you mean that we do not use SSL now to connect to database? So we
Yes.
do not use the default methods. Okay.
Any question about monitoring databases external? From Box, it have no monitoring?
Right now, no, we don't add it to monitoring by default. But I believe we will add it before this.
Thank
So you mean right now we do use, sorry, Max, insecure connection to database, right? I mean, maybe
As you
while
know, we don't use any encryption right now because this is just local host.
yeah, but if we are running in one Docker Compose, like in one like pod way, and it's the isolated environment, if it's isolated, I don't know, in your case, Nikita, is this like separate network, that it should be okay, right? It's just inside it's isolated network for everything else.
Yeah,
Actually,
I guess
I
if it's Docker Compose, so we could rely on the internal network. But yeah, but I think the concern is quite valid.
No, it's yeah, it's valid in terms if we share the database from outside of the world, but while it's in internal network in the pod or in the internal network configured by Docker Compose, that's probably is not a concern, right?
Yeah,
actually,
as long as you
not.
go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
so actually a question not only in encryption, but also in authorization, because we have credentials only for Postgres.
Yeah, but
yeah.
But SSL connection should be fairly straightforward to configure in both sides, right? For the database, it's like just a parameter that you go there and shouldn't be a complication. And even inside of the pod, like let's say, okay, yeah, we don't have problems, but you can always have an intrusion and some sniffer and get information from the network. Right. So if you just put SSL connections from PMM and then the database, it shouldn't be a big deal. I mean,
yeah, definitely something we want to, because essentially, so it's like, imagine this is PMM talking to the database layer. What if you want to connect from somewhere else, from a client, an arbitrary client? So
Exactly.
definitely, excuse me, definitely you need to protect the the connection. So out of the box, SSL is probably, sticking to the best practices.
yeah, and it's the easiest one, right? So we don't need to make it do anything fancy. It's just like put in the full SSL connection in between, so then we are fairly protected.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
So besides so this is a work of preparation to HA. Besides this stuff, what is left to get rid of from SRV? Logs, supervisor D, what's left in SRV?
SRV? Okay, I understand. I believe
Well, actually,
databases,
I don't think
and configs for
and the
manager.
and the dashboards, Nikita.
Dashboards, we actually have solution for dashboards because we have provisioning and customers can use provisionings for dashboards. But now we have alert manager config in SRE, and now we don't resolve this problem.
I'm sorry. Was your question, Dennis, around like getting rid of SRE for good, or was it? But I don't really see, I don't really see how, because the configs should go there, and the dashboards are provisioned to that particular one. Or do you mean, Nikita, they are coming from someplace else, not the SRE?
Why I'm asking about SRE is, Alex, we had this conversation about the Kubernetes, right? When you, or like even for Docker, if you mount the empty volume right now, it's not possible. But in the future, if we have everything out from SRE and we somehow can initialize SRE from the PMM inside, that's my question actually. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking about some other things we want to put to SRE. For example, we mount the integrated alerting templates and stuff like that. We also mount, I guess, to SRE. So there are many things well, not too many, not like insanely, not an insane amount of things we put to SRE, but I think we want to keep it around because it would be the equivalent of jumping on SRE and solving it while it doesn't bug us that much. As long as the database layer is taken outside, the data is secure at least. And those things that leave in SRE, they're kind of not critical.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we need extra meeting for this discussion?
We will have, definitely. We will have internally. So I don't know. Again, everybody who is present today on this demo session, you can always reach out to us, and we will be glad to talk about it further with you. So.
Okay, good.
And I guess we have one more topic.
Sorry, Alex, maybe one more question from not PMM guys here.
Okay.
Anything? Then Alex, please go on.
Yeah, I was just looking at one more point, which is I don't know. Let me share my screen. This particular one. So again, Nikita went ahead and we were receiving questions like, guys, can you build the client on our ARM? Because definitely building the server on ARM doesn't make much sense. It's too heavy and too demanding for the resources, both memory and CPU and disk size as it is right now. So we said, okay, client. So Nikita went ahead and built the client for PMM. So Nikita, do you want to share a couple of things around that?
Yeah.
I mean, just maybe like, let's talk, how difficult it is, what needs to be done other than what we have already done, what needs to be done for making it GA, like, or even before GA. Maybe the audience will tell us, are people looking forward to ARM builds, for people looking to running the client in ARM architecture, that kind of thing.
Okay. Actually, we built PMM clients. Let me share ticket with it. Also, small news. We have ARM agents in our Jenkins, and we can build ARM applications or use ARM agents for Jenkins and so on. But I believe the big thing is agents, PMM agents in ARM, and we have packages for Ubuntu, Debian, XAMPP 07, and so on. Also, we have Docker image only for clients, and we have Tarbaro. It's the same as for our usual builds. It's hard to say how much work do we need to, it's on a POC, and it's hard to say how much work do we need for final solution. I believe 1 week or maybe slightly more, because I did a couple changes manually, especially for ARM builds, and we need some automatizations, this maybe. Also, I'm not sure how our repos in Percona will work with ARM builds, because as I know, Percona doesn't have ARM builds for our products, but maybe ARM work, I'm not sure here. That's all.
I think it's
Yeah.
like the ARM repos right now, and they have a discussion. We need to involve Evgeny here. They are thinking how to do that, how to start build ARM. So we need to connect with them and see what they could have for us.
From our side, I think it's around 2 or 3 days, and we will have final solution for ARM.
Yeah, so one of the challenges, there's no repo right now.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Did we need to change the code somehow? Will we face some incompatibilities or like branches? So I can imagine it doesn't work out of the box. So we touch the code here and there, and then we have to maintain 2 branches. Is that the case, or you didn't touch the code at all?
No, we don't need to maintain 2 branches, but we need to update a couple of dependencies. And it's all, I think, when I update a couple of dependencies. But I believe the big one of ARM packages is testing, because we need testing all packages for all distributions for ARM too. And it's a lot of testing, I think, but we need to discuss it with Nikita, I think.
I think Roma is here. So the message Nikita is trying to send across, well, to you, Roma, actually, and maybe to the rest of the team, is that right now we are running some tests that are making sure the client is still okay. It runs, it monitors, it sends data. It sends data to PMM server and stuff like that. Imagine we release the ARM based. So we need to do the same, set it all up for the ARM, for every ARM version, test it, making sure the test pass and so on. So this is gonna be a serious endeavor, like a separate big epic. I can imagine.
Yes.
So we probably want to have some feedback prior to making that decision.
Yeah, we need actually feedback from the customers, early adopters, anyone from the Percona to try this, and yeah, if this work at all, and then how many people will be interested in this, so we can make a decision where we go.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikita. That was useful.
Thanks.
Great job. 2 big things you nailed.
Yeah, thanks, Nikita. By the way, about what Denise just said, do we have the procedure how to find these early adopters? Do we have already did it previously? For example, we have 2 items. One item you showed us, Alex, before. You mentioned about HA, yeah, that we need early adopters, and here, how to find them?
If I can suggest, well, for both PMMHA and ARM-based client, we have been contacted. I mean, the engineering team, have been contacted by different people. So maybe we reach out to those and say, look, you ask, and there you go. Why don't you tell us what you think about it?
Is it community people or Perconians?
Well, I'm not the best person to answer. I guess Roma may know, because he's actually the one who gets contacted by different people. But what I can see on this PMMHA paper, there are real clients who asked. Not sure this is the answer to their use case, but maybe not all, but a couple of those clients, they may want to give it a try.
Okay, because I'm curious, we're talking about this stuff, and do we know who to contact? For example, is it solution engineering? Is it professional services? How to do this marketing, sales?
Yeah, I would delegate it to someone who can handle it.
Okay, I'll do this, yeah. All right, all right. Then, any questions to Alex, Nikita? Nope. Okay. Okay. So we're trying to limit our time to 1 hour. So I believe the next presentation would be the last for today, and this would be the Implex team.
Hi guys.
Hi guys.
Good. I promised that we do it in 5 minutes, right, Taras? Because I know that actually there are still a lot of interesting things on the table. Good. So, guys, nice to meet you again. Happy that we work all together. Last time we presented already the telemetry service which we have been working on, and we promised that we are going to work on the visualization within this time frame. So Evgeny, Zhenya, stage is yours. What we have been doing.
Yeah. Do you see my screen, right?
Yep. Everything visible. Go on.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm working on Telemetry V2. And I'm going to show you the Grafana dashboard based on Telemetry V2 on which we are working right now. So this is basically the architecture diagram that shows how it works inside. So we have PMM server on the client side that gathers metric on the server itself, like version number, deploy method, agents, versions, and whatever. So in version 2, metric count and metric names are not hard-coded like we have in V1, version 1. So we can, let's say, provide as much metrics as we want to, and different PMM servers can collect different metrics based on the versions and user preferences. So the next stage is to transfer those metrics into Percona's portal. The subscriber here is Telemetry G service that basically exposes the API. For both versions, because we need to kind of be support during the migration both two versions, right? During the migration period, and it stores data to both storages, V1 and V2, to be able to use use Grafana from V1 and V2 and compare maybe, and some kind of in the middle of immigration as well. So Grafana dashboard periodically updates from the telemetry storage, and this is basically a new versions, which is not far from the old one. And the difference is that we have more flexibility to create any panels with any metrics that we want to show on the Grafana dashboard. And right now on my screen, it is not really real data from our test servers, and I'm based on generated data. And maybe during the next sprint, we are going to deploy and to the test environment to collect telemetry version 2 data from our virtual test machines. So this dashboard represents basically, as I said, test data. So there is a change in data storage and ClickHouse version. So we have basically we migrated to newer version of ClickHouse, latest version of ClickHouse, which is support for us quite which is support for us a lot functionality and maybe more rich language to select query data. Also, the new dashboard allows to represent new panels of the various data, as I said, by different metrics that can be used to show some specific metrics. Once the new metrics started to be exposed by new version of PMM server, it is immediately ready to be shown on the Grafana dashboard. So, for example, we have, let's say, quite big list of panels that we can expose in that version right now. So yeah, so this is what I would like to show you guys.
Any questions, guys, about what you've just seen, how it works, so on?
What about expected latency? Any of that?
Sorry, once again.
What about any expected latency, etc.?
This is a good question for me. Latency from Grafana to internal storage, or from the, let's say, the client and Percona's portal?
Yeah, both really. Yeah, both really. From internally between the service and the information across and from the client.
I guess the latency, it is not a big deal here, because the client PMM server sends data to Telemetry service, and we will be able to immediately to show on the Grafana dashboard. So I don't know. I have one maybe instance running on my machine, but it does not provide too much metrics. It's only, you know, like very limited PMM service. So it is exposing metrics every 10 seconds, right? But by default, PMM server on the client side expose metrics once per day, probably. So this is not a question about latency, I suppose.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and even more, Evgeny, I can add to what you just mentioned. Not only we are sending telemetry data from the servers up to the cloud once every 24 hours, but essentially the managed G service is architected in a way, whenever there is no connection, it will retry infinitely. Like whenever there is a connection, it will just accumulate and send that data whenever there is a connection. So it's quite fault tolerant from that perspective. When it comes to the data consumption, so once we have data in the cloud, well, the latency, it's a matter of how far away is the querying engine, actually Grafana, how far away is it from the data? And actually, in our case, it's just very, it's in the same availability zone. So I don't think this will be an issue for us when we will analyze the data. And actually, I think the other question would be, okay, what if we want to consume the data somewhere else? And this is where latency will probably kick in and will be a question, will be a challenge maybe. So if that data consumption, if the querying party is kind of, I don't know, in a different availability zone, geographic region, whatever. But even then, it wouldn't be that critical because you don't refresh that often.
Are we also thinking about bandwidth consumption? Like in your example, it lost connectivity, right? So the data is being accumulated. When it gets connectivity back, we'll push the whole data that's being accumulated with split in chunks. Are we thinking about how it will work on this process as well?
Yes, it's data in batches, I suppose.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and the good news to answer your question, Charlie, is that this payload is still tiny. So it's not even megabytes. It's just so tiny we can forget about the load.
Okay.
It uses gRPC over the protocol. So it's very tiny, and the real data is quite,
insignificant.
Kilobytes. Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. No, my concern is because usually for the networks, the outbound is quite sensitive, right? So and expensive. So if you could like balance those things, definitely would be something that we can marketing, right, for the customers.
Sure. In the middle of PMM server and Percona portal, at the point 2, we have infrastructure with reverse proxies, right, which is balanced for us to which telemetry D it sends data. So we quite safe here, I would say.
Yeah, there is a load balancer, Amazon's load balancer, so it should
and
should
Amazon's
pretty well.
Yes. I'm just from the developer's perspective, I'm describing.
Okay, guys. So basically, we're out of time actually. So if you have more questions, please address them to our channel PMM. It's open for everybody. Also, I will share the links to the recording and to the document with all the links to the documents later after I will receive the link for these recordings. Then thank you guys. Hopefully it was interesting for you. See you next time in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everybody. Bye.